Hello gents, welcome to the new series Gambian Chess Legends, where we take the best games by Gambia's best players and bring them to you. And that's it. Today we're starting with no other than Gambia's number one, Ibrahim Abba, probably Gambia's greatest of all time, multiple time national champion. Here's his picture. If I can't find it, I'll put something else there. That's it. Let's start. This game's from the 2022 Olympiad. Boom, let's get into it. Let's get into the game. This is Ibrahim Abba versus Alandasin Selwich. I did not pronounce that name correctly, but we don't care here. Now we start with e4. Opponent starts with e4. Crew is playing black, so he normally plays the French defense, which is e6. Opponent plays a sideline, knight f3. You don't see this a lot nowadays. Look, you don't see this a lot at all. I don't see this. So Crew continues d5. Opponent pushes the pawn to e5, and then Crew continues mainline with French, just c5. That's how you play classic French defense. So then opponent strikes in the center with d4. Crew takes. Note, you can play a gambit here with bishop d3, but that's not how the opponent goes for. And you just play around black's pawn. But the opponent in this game takes back the pawn with the knight. Crew plays a6. Decent move. Stops anything from going to b5. No bishop b5, no nothing. Or knight f3. Knight c6. Wait, knight b5. Yeah, we don't do edits here, so you're gonna see me think like a mad person. Okay, opponent goes bishop d3. Crew plays c5. And opponent plays c3. Opponent plays c3, supporting the knight. No need to move the bishop, and also creating space for the bishop on c2, which you can do later on. And now Crew plays knight e7. Opponent castles, and the game continues normally with knight g6. Yeah, opponent goes queen e2, supporting the pawn here, which would have been interesting if he played c5. No, I mean f4, just clamping down. But that's not what happened in the game, and we're recapping. It's not philanthropist. That's not the right word. We're recapping here. We're not over analyzing anything. This is gonna be 10 minutes. If you want longer videos, go to Agad Mata or Gotham Chess or something. That's not here. Okay, now we go queen b6. Goes queen b6, adding more pressure to the knight. And black plays knight b3, attacking the bishop. And Crew in the game goes knight c6, just normal development, adding pressure to the pawn on e5. So now you have two attackers, the knight and the knight. So opponent in the game takes the bishop on c5. Crew plays queen takes, and the game continues with bishop takes, which is interesting because he could have again defended the pawn with f4. Actually, he couldn't in this position. You had to play bishop here first, attack the queen. So queen has to go back, then you can play f4, getting rid of the pin because the pawn on this thing. So the pawn is pinned away. So, boom. But opponent decides to take, opens up the h file for black. And game continues with, yeah, bishop c5, bishop f4. I need to work on my annotations, but normal development, just bishop d7, and knight d2, rook h5 is an interesting move because it does a lot of things. One, it adds pressure along the h file, so boom, lots of pressure, and you can bring the other rook later on after you castle, so you have two things. And it also aims at the pawn on e5. So again, I feel the opponent should have gone f4 here, but alas, it has passed. And now Crew just, okay, black continues, white continues with knight f3. So castles, and boom, rook to c1. Yeah, just putting the rook in the line, so when this opens up, and you, let's say, move the knight, you say bye-bye Queen Elizabeth. Now that's dark. So Crew continues this game with f6, just attacking the pawn. I don't quite agree with this. Because why are you getting rid of black's weakness? Well, alas, we're just recapping. No, I'm not gonna cast. And opponent strikes back here. He overreacts. He should have just taken the pawn and just no worries, you're safe, right? But here he just overreacts and then creates a big weakness on c3, which goes to it being himself, Gambia's number one after all, just decides to exploit it with rook c3. You let me go forward, I go forward, simple chess. So he attacks the rook with the king. He just brings the other rook. Game just continues like this, and now it's just go from here on. Opponent was fighting really well until this point, but then it's at this, like, this is not looking good for black, for white, I mean. So the game continues. G5, attacking the bishop. Again, works. I think next game we remove the engine because the engine just doesn't make it look as fun. And vote in the comments, which I have disabled. G5, bishop goes back. So now knight back to d2 because the knight is not doing anything here on c6. Anyway, it can't go anywhere. Just a useless piece. So we go knight back to e7, so it can move to another place. Like you have to go back before you even go forward. And yeah, so now opponent decides to strike with c4. But again, why would I let you? And you can't take this though, like it's just inside, you just lose your queen. So it takes and bye-bye. So which is why Kuru is not me. So he just pushes the pawn to d4. I just c5, d4. And then opponent plays queen d3, blockading the pawn, which alas is not the most accurate move. So bishop c6, just bringing the bishop, bringing another piece into the game. Look at this, an interesting position. Compare the pieces. Black's rook's doing nothing. This guy, again, behind its own pawn, but all black's pieces are kind of doing something. The queen's here, guarding the pawn, the rooks are attacking. The knight is gonna come in eventually, and the bishop is just chef's kiss. So he draws the, I will not cast. He draws the king back, and then Kuru chops bishop. Bishop takes the knight, queen takes knight, and f5. Now the opponent has to be careful because the threat, the main f5 comes with a threat. You're gonna go boom, f4, and the bishop's gone. Bishop's bye-bye, and the bishop really has no escape. It has no way to go, but that's the crazy part, because if you take, I take back, you push the pawn, I get to the bishop before you, so the bishop is just trapped at this point. It cannot escape, which Shama, it's just game over. So I will play a couple of more moves. He played queen a3, so yeah, and not the most active defense, but so Kuru just takes, and f5, boom, bishop's gone. But here he just what's the term, like show that I'm stronger than you. One malamu. This guy, he doesn't take the bishop straight away. He defends his pawn. Black brings the rook. He takes another pawn, moves the rook. Now he takes. Like that's just, he's just showing off at that point, I guess. But now opponent takes with the rook on g3, which I kind of disagree with. Like there's pawn takes made more sense to me. The rook doesn't. Again, I'm a recap, not an analysis channel. Well, I'm not even a channel, to be honest. So rook takes g3, we check. Opponent takes back with the f pawn, because if you take with the h pawn, takes, rook takes, and we push the pawn. King can't stop it. So here, Kuru takes the pawn on c4, not the last pawn, but the only important pawn at this point. And game just continues. King here. Rook attacks the knight, support, just simple chess. You attack the knight, I defend the knight. You attack the pawn, I don't really care, I defend the pawn again. But it's not really about defending the pawn here. It's about getting the king closer to where the action is here. I don't care about this one. You just take, I take back, and I can always move the knight. So takes, and another attack. See? So he just brings the rook in. No problem. However, getting another piece, rooks belong on open files. And this rook does something else. It doesn't just come in to look nice. It cuts off the white king, so the king cannot come here anymore. Which is very interesting. Now, this guy is actually pretty good. Okay, his Gambia's number one. Of course, he's pretty good. His Gambia's number one for now. But what am I saying? There's no hope. Okay, opponent tries to fight here. He pushes the pawn, but could just do the same. He pushes, push, and opponent resigns here because it gets game over. You cannot defend this. If you, let's say, you decide to block, just check, and it's game over. There's nothing you can do. This is just demolition. So this goes win against G.C.L. I will never pronounce that name correctly. In the 2022 Olympiad. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the new series. If you didn't, don't tell me. So gents, thanks for watching. That was the video. If you have any suggestions, WhatsApp me. If you can't, maybe there will be comments. But that's it. Enjoy. Have a nice day. Peace.